You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to another episode of What's the T-Bev, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on the BQN. I'm your host, Christos. What's the T-Bev is a podcast where I interview members of the LGBTQIA+ community and our allies. We get to know our guests' Trekdom through a series of questions that I repeat to everybody every week, and discuss current Trek news, new Star Trek episodes, and speculate on the future of Star Trek. Remember, you can watch What's the T-Bev on our YouTube channel of the same name or wherever you get your BQN podcasts. Don't forget to join the fun and continue the conversation on our BQN Discord. I just got into this like about a month ago. Davey started this, and it is flourishing. You'll find the link right in the episode description below. It's a great community where you can meet fellow fans, discuss episodes from all of our podcasts, and so much more. And I can just say it's flourishing, and people are joining every day. And there's a page for every, there's a Slack, I don't even know what you call it in Discord, but there is a conversation for every podcast that we have. There's Patreon Slack in there. There's memes. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. So you guys need to join us over there. All right, I'm going to bring in our guests already. Somebody who I just happened to meet via Instagram, and I found out is a fan of the show. So I'm really looking forward to having him on. Let's bring in Mr. Jeff Folck. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm a little coffeeed up this morning, so I'm talking fast.
Jamie would be very proud.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, oh my God, I am literally drinking out of my Janeway coffee mug.
There you go. This is Star Trek 6, I think.
Yeah. And the good folks at Paramount, or whatever, the Paramount store, the Star Trek store. There's no Beverly coffee mug. I'm just saying. There's a Troy one, but there's not a Beverly.
We need to fix this.
We need to fix these things.
Yeah.
So welcome, Jeff.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Yeah, Jeff is joining us from the Buffalo sector. So he's graciously joining me here on a Saturday afternoon, my Saturday morning. So thank you for coming on.
No way. It's my pleasure. And really, the image that's up, it's from, have you been to the Star Trek set tour?
No, and it's on my list, especially now that they're building in some TNG sets.
TNG, that's right. So in Western New York, for us, it's only like, I don't know, a 6-hour drive. So I went, and it was amazing. So I'm glad that image is up, because if anyone gets the chance to check that out, I mean, as a child, you kind of like dream this stuff, right? It's in your head, but then you get to walk into it. It's amazing. It's absolutely cool. So check it out.
I will check it out. I mean, I have done a few things in my day. Like, I am old enough to have done the Star Trek experience in Las Vegas and had like that full TNG Enterprise D beamed onto the transporter pad, taken down the corridor, ended up on the bridge, and it was very, 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 very real. So I know what that feels like when you get to actually immerse yourself in like 360 Trek.
You're in it. It's like, wow, this is amazing. And yeah, that's cool. I unfortunately never made it to the experience. I do remember it, but that's, it was far away from me, so I didn't get a chance to go, unfortunately.
Yeah, I got to go 3 times over the 10 years. I was living in Hawaii during that whole time, so it was it was a trip. It was a trip. Like, yeah. It was, it was a full on vacation. You had to, fly 6-7 hours, so
I need to treat myself to more of this. I know you do the cruises. I I think I'm doing one next year. I think I'm doing it finally. Finally.
All right.
I know.
I'm on the rope still. Everyone in my cruise pod is like thinking about going on a European vacation instead
Sounds
as
good
the
too.
whole group. So I'm like, a bunch of gays and allies going to Europe together to basically create our own mini con that just because we're together and having a great time.
I'll come
I
to
don't
that
know.
instead. Let's do that. That sounds like a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
All right. We'll talk more offline.
Yeah, Europe is good.
That exactly. Well, wait till I tell you where we're going. So, uh, also very gay destination.
Got it.
So you have a really cool Instagram page that
Thank you.
called Renegade Shipyards. Um,
Yeah.
why don't you tell me just a little bit about how you got started with model building, I guess I'll call it.
Yeah, no. So it's probably a story that others have, but during COVID, I had worked remotely before COVID, but not full time. And then of course COVID started and I was in my home office looking around and I'm like, I need a proper starship on my desk. Like I can't work like this without a ship. So I ordered an Eagle Moss ship, which I'm not knocking anything that they do. I think it's fantastic work. It came broken. I was so upset. I was like, oh no. So it was the Enterprise D, the fat one, of course.
The
And
fat one.
I sent it back. I got another one. It came and I set it on my desk and I looked and I'm like, it's so small. I think I need a bigger one. So I started researching model making, and I had done it as a child when I was very young, a little bit of model making, nothing extreme. And so anyway, I got the kit. I watched like 2 or 3 YouTube videos and set the course for building my own. And once I started, I just didn't stop. I just kept building and building and building more and more. And then I do the different scales. So there's in the images here, some of those are 1/1000 scale. That's like the TMP era, motion picture era. And then the 1/1400 are the first contact or TNG era. And so
I
I,
like how you said TMP and act like I wouldn't know what that is.
well, just in case.
No, I know. I'm just like, come on, we're nerds, right? We got.
So no, but yeah. So yeah, that's basically what happened. And then I just started one day. I said, you know what? I'm going to post some photos of these on Instagram. Let's just see what happens. And it kind of just took off on its own, and nobody cared about me. They just cared about the ships, which hey, rightfully so, right? And so I started taking pictures of them in like the gardens or by the pool, and it was just really weird. But people are like responding to it pretty well. So yeah, that's basically what happened. It's a COVID hobby that just sort of went on its own and did its own thing. And I'm delighted for it because I've always been a Star Trek fan. So the fact that I get to pivot into this part of the fandom is great. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's awesome, and you do some amazing work. Renegade Shipyards is the Insta, and I'll have that up here in a second. You have like 6 or 7 thousand followers too. You've built that's quite the following.
And honestly, I'm very humble about that because some of the friends that I met through the model making community, which are sick, talented guys and girls, they have way more. I'm kind of like I like to think that I'm still one of the new guys, but some of them are just I'm chatting with the guy that designed the Enterprise G, for God's sake, like that's insane, right? Like
Yeah,
insane. So
it's
it's good stuff.
very
Bill
insane.
Krause, he's amazing. Admiral Buck, check him out. His work is out of control. He makes mine look like, amateur hour for sure.
Yeah, my favorite starship has always been the Enterprise A, the Enterprise refit, whatever you want to call it, the
Yeah.
movie Enterprise. In fact,
How do you not
kind
fall
of
in love
see,
with it?
yeah, and you can kind of see on my wall behind me, I have a
Yeah.
huge art piece, panel art piece of it.
Beautiful.
I loved when Terry Metalis, who also shares the same love of that ship, who through
Yes.
himself passed that on to Jack Crusher. That was kind of inspired by Terry Metalis, that whole thing with 7 and 9 in that episode of Picard, where they're
Right.
talking about the A. But like I love though that Terry Matalas loved that ship so much that we came back to that for season 3 of Picard. So we get this Neo Constitution class
Yeah.
ship, which was the Titan, then became the Enterprise A, or
Yeah.
the Titan A, right? It was the
Yes, because the first, well, the Titan, I think before it was a Luna class, which I built as well.
Yeah.
Sean
And the Titan
Torrento.
before that was Savik's captaincy.
Yes, the Shangri-La class, I think, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful
Right.
ship.
So these are all ships I need models of, by the way. So I will be commissioning, like, I need me. You know,
I'm glad I
think
have
it'd be
friends
cool.
that do this because we're all gonna have work now. We'll
Yeah.
have commission.
I mean, even like not just the Titan A and, you know, Enterprise G, whatever you want to call it, even going back to that Shangri-La class that has more of that classic, you know, movie era nacelles and things like that. That'd be really bitching to have. And of course, our other, like, not yet seen in a model form ship, the Ilios, which is Beverly Crusher's ship from Poor
Yes.
Thing. Beverly ships don't seem to last, right? You know, the Pasteur blew up and the Ilios got destroyed. Everything Beverly ever owned got destroyed in that
Well,
episode.
the
I mean,
metaphagic
like,
shielding must not have been working that day or something. I don't know. We
yeah,
need Ensign Tate back to help save the day, right? Yeah, her
yeah.
ships. You're right. They don't seem to last, and all of her stuff on the Ilios too. Like
Yeah.
they did that gorgeous shot of like all of her her masks from the plays and the scripts, and she had all of her like the plans.
The pearls from The Big Goodbye were in there.
Jack
I mean,
Crusher's, the original Jack Crusher's like box with all of his stuff, all of it. Poof,
yeah, her
thrown into
wards,
the Titan. It was like, but no. So the Ilios, there is actually a model available that we can totally do for you. Yeah, it's not one of the commercially available ones, let's say, but I absolutely know someone that is producing them, and we can make that happen for you easily. Yeah.
Oh, I love a good bootleg. Wow, that's just so much fun. I'm a geek with models too. I don't do anything with them now. I do have ships all over my damn house, but when I was in high school, this was during, you know, when I was in high school, TNG was getting toward the end, DS9 was starting, and I was buying like the AMT model kits, and you know, there was no internet yet, so I literally would spend a Saturday building a ship, you know, and
wow, that's
and then
yeah.
and then growing up in Ohio, my brothers and I would destroy them during 4th of July. You know, I mean,
Wait, which part of Ohio were you in that you were this bored?
Like I said, pre-internet. So when you strip that out, there's not a whole lot. You know, when you think about what we had to do to entertain ourselves, we actually had real hobbies.
I was right behind you then because I think TNG ended when I was in 7th grade.
Okay.
I was right behind you.
Yeah, it ended at the end of my junior year of high school, I think, because my senior year was, I remember Generations came out and Voyager premiered, and you know, all that stuff happened. So
what a busy time, right? And now we're doing it again. I mean, it's so incredible. Who would have thought in 2005 when Enterprise ended that there's this like gap, right, of no Star Trek, and then we're living it again. It's insane. And it's also very surreal to me to think that was 20 plus years ago. Does it feel it? I don't think it does.
Oh yeah, Generations is 30 years old this year, and so
it's so weird.
Which is a little thing, yeah. So, anyways, I got a couple of images here. I didn't know what to pull from your Insta, but I just kind of pulled some ones that I liked. So, of course, I've always been, especially here on the second image here, I've always been a fan of like. Well, I can't tell how many nacelles are on that ship, but like the original, like I used to build with Legos and stuff when I was a kid too, and there was this old Star Trek manual, and I always wanted to build the Columbia, which was supposed to be just one, like the saucer section with one nacelle.
I think it was a Saladin class, right?
Yeah,
from back in the day, the original series.
And we see a little bit of a very similar design in Strange New World season 1.
Yes,
so
the Archer.
Yeah,
right?
The Archer, yes, exactly. So I'm like, oh.
So the ships that you see there, those are inspired largely by, if you ever play, I'm a huge PC gamer guy from way back. All the original Star Trek games that came out, if it was a PC Star Trek game, I played it. But Starfleet Command produced by Interplay way back in the day. There were a
Mm-hmm.
number of starter ships, and that is what is in that image right there. It was an Okinawa class starship was your first one, the little baby one that you would start off with. And the one to the right, even though in the game, I think it was called an Acula class, this is actually an Asuka class, so it's slightly different, but it's got the two nacelles. So there's one up above and one below.
Ah,
Yeah, so that's a very classic design at this point. People comment on it, and actually, really cool story. The guy that designed the Okinawa class, he was in college and he was a beta tester for Interplay when Starfleet Command came out, and he found that, and that ship, by the way, is 3D printed, which you can probably tell by the image, but he was just so excited to see his design made as a model. He's like, oh, I made that. I was like, really? That's super cool. Like, so
oh,
anyway, yeah, really cool stuff.
well, that's really cool. Like, how like one person's vision, and then the next
And
person
then
kind
it
of
comes,
carries on,
yeah.
brings it to life, and
Well, and
that's pretty
especially
cool.
connecting with these folks has been just the coolest thing. Because I mean, again, when you're with 14-year-old me, like you said, before the internet, I mean, this was just in your head. That was really where it was. And now to have the connectivity in the community is just really cool. Really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, two more images before we move on, but you have the Resolute here that you built from Star Trek Resurgence, which fun game. You guys can play that on PS4, 5.
It's
I
great.
think.
That's a great
Yeah,
game.
yeah,
Have
it's
you,
really
how many
entertaining.
times have you gone through it? Do you know?
I played through. I'm actually I just picked it back up. I played it the hell out of it for like 2 weeks, put it down, and I got busy with life, and so like I just kind of kicked up my PS5 again. I'm like, I'm picking that back up. I literally have this really entertaining like Star Trek story right here. I mean, I read the comic books that preceded it, and
Yes, with Leah
that
Braun and all that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
The
So that was pretty.
Solarians. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So I picked that back up. Really cool ship design, though. I really appreciate. That's what made me want to grab this image off your Insta. And then, of course, Beverly Crusher's first ship in an alternate timeline, alternate future, the Pasteur, which is the Olympic class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So all of the ships that I build, for the most part, are uniquely named, or at least not one of the hero ships. And people ask me like, why do you do that? And it's an actually practical response. So if it doesn't look exactly like it should, if I take like creative liberties, I'm like, well, yeah, it's not the Enterprise. It can do this. So
Yeah.
I kind of take that as like creative license a little bit, but yeah, I like to think that I name my ships pretty cool things. So the Pasteur like, or the Olympic class there, is the Unity, and Unity is one of the very first hospital ships ever. It was a British ship that was launched in like I think the 1600s or something like that. So I was like, hey, why not? It's a great name and it has some purpose, it has some meaning. So there you go.
Well, little historical throwback there, and like Star Trek has like always been littered with that anyway, right? So
Absolutely,
there's
100%.
always meaning to the names. There's the one other ship I really am like taken with, and I think I don't know where it got started. I think it's a Ross class, which is the next iteration of the Galaxy.
Galaxy, yeah.
And I think we see it in season 2 of Picard in some of those big fleet scenes. But so it has been canonized. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
it's a design from Star Trek Online, which
Yeah,
I also play. I'm not sure
yeah,
if you do.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
I haven't played in a hot minute, but I played, and I still have that. It's literally why I bought a PS4 back when I did, was to be able to play Star Trek Online.
So PC
So
gamer here, I'm a lifetime subscriber. I have like thousands of Zen that you accumulate, and I
yeah,
just sit on it like an idiot. I should probably buy some pretty ships, but yeah, I love it. It's a great game.
great game. Yeah, I used to play. Speaking of old PC games, I played the shit out of Armada 1 and 2.
Yeah, amazing
In fact,
games.
yeah, yeah.
That was in
So
my
just
undergrad days when I wasn't studying or anything, so I was busy playing PC games. But yeah, that was a great era for Star Trek gaming.
yeah,
You'd have a new game almost like every few months, and I
yeah.
would just be ready to go, buying them up and playing. Yeah, the Armada games were a lot of fun. Did you play a Final Unity, the
I
TNG
did
game with
not.
the voice cast?
I did not. But yeah, I know that. I think yeah, there was a lot of original voicing in that. That's back in
Really
the
good.
days when you go to CompUSA to buy your games and
Yeah.
and then buy the book that helped you cheat, you know. And
The cheat book, yeah. I mean, hey, if you needed the help, it was there for you, right? But yeah, all good stuff. Oh, I miss those days.
yeah. So we've done a lot of trekking to know you already, believe it or
Yeah,
not, but we're gonna like formally jump into that. And um, so so let's talk
I'm
about like
ready. I'm ready to go.
you ready? You ready? All right. Take a deep breath. Um, what was your first contact with Star Trek?
Okay, so when I was probably 7 or 8 years old, I was watching an animated series at that point called The Mysterious Cities of Gold. It was incredible. And it was all about adventure and all this. And I sort of pivoted one day. My dad had on Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. It's like naval and there's, really
Very
cool
naval.
characters and it was kind of scary, I remember thinking, because I was young. And I also realized in between like commercial breaks that there were commercials for the Next Generation. And at that time they were for new episodes, right? So I was like, what is this whole Star Trek universe? Like I realized even at that point that it was pretty big, an interesting thing to investigate and really understand. So I watched obviously the rest of Wrath of Khan. And then I think my very first Next Generation episode at 8 years old was the Drumhead. Really
Such a
heavy.
good episode.
It's amazing. It's a great episode. But as an 8 year old, you're kind of like, wow, this is really intense. Like, and I took that episode away with me, and to this day, I was just like, this says something. It means something. This is big. And
Yeah.
that was it. I tuned in like every week. And at that point too, there were the new episodes on like Friday nights, I think, but there were daily episodes at 6 o'clock every day. And I would watch, the first and second, third, whatever seasons that were open or available at that time. And yeah, that was my sort of intro into it. It was Star Trek 2, but then I jumped right into TNG. And then I caught up on all
Yeah.
the movies as well, of course.
Of course, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Drumhead's such a good episode. And
Yeah.
of course, poor Worf, weak-minded fool, easily swayed, caught up in all of it, you know. But isn't that episode like a really good metaphor for like a lot of what's going on right now in the world?
Oh,
Like, there's
massive.
so much paranoia, and so many people get swept up in conspiracy theories, and they
Yeah.
see things where they don't exist, and they become very
Right.
fanatic about it.
Well,
Just, you know,
in the line too, where Picard he storms out and he's like, "I don't like what we've become," and
yeah,
that just at 8 years old that resonated. But now as an adult, it's like, Jesus, that really means so much more.
very
And
prolific.
also a
Yeah.
shout to Beverly in that episode, because even though she doesn't have like a lot of screen time, her screen time, she gives like the looks where it's like, is this really happening right now? And
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
protective of Tarsus and everything. And I remember thinking even then, she's someone I gotta watch because she knows what's going on. She seems like she's got it together. So anyway,
Smart, smart, smart woman.
yes,
All
100%.
right. So, favorite Trek series? Do I know the answer to that just based on what we've been talking about? But
It's like, it's like asking like which is your favorite kid, right? I grew up with TNG, but also DS9, of course, premiered, right in that era. Voyager followed soon behind. So I like to think that all of them are kind of like closely related. If I had to pick a favorite, it would be TNG, but I mean, TOS is beautiful and it's fun. DS9 is serialized and it's got this whole war arc, which, at that age was super influential. Voyager, of course, came along and, they made such a big deal out of it. And I just remember thinking like, yeah, it is a big deal, but not necessarily for the reasons they're all saying. But yeah, I mean, it was August of Enterprise. I was an undergrad during Enterprise's run, so I didn't get to see it as much. And I feel like it took me a long time to really have an appreciation for it. And then once I rewatched it during COVID, I was like, this is actually pretty good. Like
yeah,
I don't dislike it. It's good.
Enterprise has held up very well. I
I
actually
agree.
have, yeah, I wasn't the big, I watched it. I mean, actually, I was, okay, I was that Star Trek fan that like tuned out during season two. I stopped watching, which was
Yeah,
kind of telling, right? But
right.
I heard all the chatter around what they were going to do for, we're going to do something really big for season 3. So I literally tuned in for the final episode of season 2, which leads into season 3. And I was
Right.
back in for the rest of the series and went back. But I know what you mean with college. Like I said, Voyager started my last year of high school, and then I went off to college, and I didn't have a TV in my dorm, and blah, blah, blah. And so I lost track of DS9 in season 4, and which is really when it got good, and I lost track of, but I liked all of DS9, but it really gets good with season 4, right?
Yeah.
And then I kind of, and then of course Voyager. So I had to go back and later to pick that all back up and fill that in.
But I envy people that tell me, oh, I haven't seen all of DS9 or I haven't seen Enterprise. I'm like, really? You've unwatched material? Do you know what that means? That's like incredible. Get into it.
It's new to you.
What are you waiting for? No way. During college, it just wasn't accessible, right? The channel, I think at the time it was on like UPN or something like that. Where I went to undergrad, it just wasn't there. So
yeah, I
didn't get to see it, but they were at that point running reruns of DS9 and Voyager at like 2 and 3 a.m. or something like that. And I remember some of my fondest memories of undergrad were sort of studying and knowing that in a few hours after I'm done studying, I've got some DS9 and Voyager to watch, and it was great. It was good times. But yeah, those were fun memories.
Like a warm blanket.
Yeah, that's exactly right. In my warm blanket with my hot cocoa, watching Star Trek. It was good.
Do you have a favorite episode of all
of
Trek?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard to pick. I mean, even for each series, it's hard to pick. I mean, obviously, you've got your classics, The Inner Light, The Visitor, Duet. DS9's got some really great ones in The Pale Moonlight, Voyager with Counterpoint. I mean, there are just some really strong episodes of the original series, The City on the Edge of Forever, Balance of Terror. I mean, I'm listing probably everybody's favorites. If I had to pick one, gosh, it would be so hard. Maybe Remember Me, because it's a Beverly episode.
It is. I remember, I think I've said this before on the show, but I remember when I was watching it weekly at that point, and I remember whatever the prior episode was, there was always next time on Star Trek, The Next Generation. And I'm like, it's a Beverly episode. Like, just that with my, like it was already in your, because Star Trek TNG was famous for, it's a Beverly episode. It's a Worf episode. It's a Data episode. Right. Yeah. And so you're like, you just watch that and you're like, and so by season 4, you'd already like, established in your own head, like it's a Beverly episode. Yeah, and I remember.
No, I know.
Literally,
I know exactly what you're saying. I remember when, unmistakably, the preview for Sub Rosa happened, and I was like, "Dude, it's a Beverly episode." I'm so excited, and watching it, and I was like, "Okay." Wow, this is a Beverly episode, all right. Yeah, amazing. It was like, so anyway, yes, I know exactly what you mean. And it's difficult sometimes to watch some of the really strong episodes where she's not really in it. And it's always like, guilty pleasure, where is she? And then no offense to Dr. Pulaski at all. The second season, probably my least favorite. And that's probably why that she's not in it, but Measure of a Man. It's great. It's a great episode.
Yeah. No, there's great. I've told this people before. I think top 5 episodes for me of TNG. I love Redemption 1 and 2. Oh, and Beverly doesn't even speak in the first part because she's like 9.5 years pregnant, and they're like her lab coat couldn't be any bigger in that final scene when Worf leaves the Enterprise, and then she has her and Troy have some scenes where they're talking about Tasha Yar and genetics and whatnot in in episode 2, but it's not a Beverly episode, but it's great.
Oh yeah, totally. Great art for Worf, especially. I mean, and talk about a character that started out as sort of a background kind of guy, and he wasn't about to have that, and then totally took off. So good for him. Yeah, Redemption's great.
Let's see here. What is your favorite movie?
Oh my gosh, favorite movie. Jeepers. I mean, the canned response, of course, is First Contact, but I really have a very strong love for Star Trek 3. because it introduces more starships, which I was like, when they show the Excelsior for the first time, I remember thinking as a kid, wait, it's bigger and better than the Enterprise? Sign me up.
Yes.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, what's that ship, you know?
I mean,
So-
you get the Excelsior in that movie. You get the
Grissom.
Grissom, which is not my favorite design. I was, it was like,
poor Oberth class. Never gets any wrong.
I tell you what I would do to fix it, which is it needed to have, instead of having 2 points at each end, it needed to have like more like the Enterprise deflector dish on the front end. And I think I might have been a little, I mean, that alone might have fixed it for me, but it always didn't make sense. Are they taking turbo lifts through the nacelle struts? I mean, like that part didn't make sense either. But
yeah, it's a cute little ship that never gets a lot of love. The poor thing.
Yeah.
And I love how in lower decks they actually make fun of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The doctor,
I love Star.
Like, I spent 7 years on an Oberth class.
Oberth class.
I'm like, oh, that's a really harsh dig at the Oberth, but okay.
Yeah, I do like Star Trek 3. It's definitely underrated, I guess is probably the better word.
It had really big shoes to fill after 2, right? I mean,
yeah, and it's a beautiful. If you look at the colors in that movie too, now we have like the 4K version of it and whatnot.
Yeah.
It really looks good. Of course, everyone knows I prefer Kirstie Alley's Saavik. So had Saavik not been recast, that would probably change everything on that movie for me. Like if it had just been played by Kirstie Alley, that I probably would like it'd be up there in my top 2 or 3.
Yeah, I feel bad for Robin Curtis because she's just a doll, and she's come to the conventions in Buffalo. So I've actually, seen her chat about things, and yeah, I mean, it's not really her fault. I think Kirstie Alley definitely just had that role, the chemistry and all of it, and I feel like poor Robin Curtis came in and was like, "What am I having? What do I do?" So.
First off, I love Robin Curtis. I have chatted with her several times. In fact, I'm going to D&I Con in Philadelphia in a week and a half or 2 weeks from today. I don't know. So yeah, any listeners, if you're going to D&I Con, like let's chat. And Robin Curtis is going to be there, so I'm excited to see her because I've had some great conversations with her. She is a fantastic woman, and she doesn't play Saavik bad. So for the record, I don't dislike her. I don't dislike Robin Curtis. I don't dislike her. I just don't. It's a recast, and I don't like any recasting in general. It's
recasts are hard.
Weird. It's hard, right? So yeah, plenty of love to Robin Curtis. Anyways, all right. So I think we know your favorite character. So shall we like crush out on Crusher?
Let's crush out. Let's do it. Yes, she is. So she is. So, and again, we can probably go on about this at great lengths, but I remember thinking, wait, so she's got 3 pips, so that means she's a commander. Yes. She's the chief medical officer. She's a single mom. She leaves to become the head of Starfleet Medical, and then just decides she's bored and comes back to the flagship of Starfleet. I just remember thinking, this chick is badass. At 8 years old, I was thinking this, right? So as I kept watching, right, of course, she just continued to evolve and get better and better. And I loved the episode Suspicions. I was so glad they gave her that. Like Deanna got Face of the Enemy, which I think actually was originally written for Beverly, but
it was.
Right.
But you know what? That worked better for that. I can admit
Marina
that
nailed it.
Troy.
100%. Marina nailed that role. She was awesome when she yelled at the sub commander. I was like, dude, that's Deanna Troy. Get it. But
yeah, I think they had made her empathic.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry. We're all over.
No. But in Suspicion, when Beverly beats up that Takaran and then blows a hole through him, I'm like, holy smokes, that's Beverly. She's amazing. So yeah, I'm a huge fan. And then when she's left in command of the Enterprise at the end of the season, I was like, whoa.
Oh, okay. I remember having to wait all summer to see how that was going to resolve. Like Beverly got left in command. And then, I mean, to see her do so well in Descent Part 2. Like,
she nailed command. And part of me knew that was going to happen, but to actually see it, it was like, okay, yep, she's got this. She's got this too. Yeah, Beverly's
I
amazing.
remember.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just remember her kicking ass so bad. I found some of my old Star Trek soundtracks on CD last weekend, and I was ripping them into my computer because I'm always building that ultimate Star Trek playlist. And so it has some of the so it has music from Descent 1 and 2 on this CD, and then there's this one that's like Beverly to the Rescue is actually the name of the track, and I'm like, even on the back of the CD, it's Beverly to the Rescue. It's like, yes.
I think part of the reason why I enjoyed Picard season 3 so much, well, of course, a huge reason why, Terry Matalas was very serious about bringing Beverly back in a way that wasn't a background character. I mean, he said this outright. She has said this outright. And it was awesome for me. I was so there for it. And I was like, yes, finally, she's getting her due, right? So she's just the best. I've always been a huge fan. Best.
Yeah, when Picard the series was announced, my only wish was that we got at some point, because I knew what the premise was, right? It wasn't going to be a TNG reunion, and so I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if we just got to see Gacy McFadden as Beverly Crusher. Cameo, I would take a cameo, you know what I mean? But just, and I remember thinking for the longest time, were they going to kill her off because Picard was supposed to be all damaged? Picard was going to be damaged and not the same guy, and I'm like, well, if he had lost Beverly, that would probably be very hurtful to him. And in a way, he did lose Beverly. She walked out of his life for 20 years. So that was just kind of more overlay to what hardened, even with season 3, when we find this out, just another thing to explain why Picard's just this grumpy old man in the first episode of season 1.
She left basically and disappeared. I just really, really cool to see her come full circle. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic as a fan of hers for so long. And now she's, once again, head of Starfleet Medical. I mean, she just kind of dips in and dips out when she wants. I love it.
I just got the new episode of Star Trek Explorer, and there's a little bit of a season 3 breakdown, it's like right over here. I was gonna grab it, but you're going through, there's like all these characters, and there's like, there has their name on it, but it also has their titles. So it's funny because you see Captain Riker, Captain Worf, Admiral Beverly Crusher, and it's like, and so it's like Jean-Luc, Beverly, and I guess Geordie LaForge is a Commodore. The 3 that, like, of the 7 of them, it's Commander Troy,
They elevated
Data never got to go any further than, because he died back in Nemesis, and was, so like, of our 7, only 3 of them really rose to that.
These are our all-stars, right? And 2 of them were largely left in the background, unfortunately, for a long time, especially in the movies for the most part. But fun fact about so back to my PC gaming, a Final Unity. There is a first contact with an alien race called the Chodak in the game, and if you choose your away team, where it's Beverly, Worf, and the 2 ensigns, there are 2 like ensigns that you can take. She introduces herself as Commander Beverly Crusher of the Starship Enterprise of the United Federation of Planets. And I remember thinking, it took a video game to make this happen, that I had to like set this up. But, anyway, so she's just awesome. Well deserved of the Admiral rank for sure.
Yeah, there were a few moments in there. I mean, we loved, after Descent 2, we have, I think it's in Thine Own Self that, I think that's when Troy decides she wants to take the bridge test. So they actually set that up with a scene between Troy and Beverly on the bridge. Yeah. And she literally asked her, why did you become a commander? You didn't need to. And so I love that we got a little context there. And in some ways, Beverly inspired Troy, or, was a role model in that aspect.
And I think Jerry Taylor, who was one of the,
she was on by season 7. She was in there, right?
She was there. And she had such, you could tell that she was there because these things were happening. That wouldn't have happened probably earlier in the show, but I'm glad that it did. Yeah.
Yeah. I've also mentioned this before, but I don't know if you know, but in Descent 2, putting Beverly in command of the Enterprise was a little bit of them stretching to see what audience reaction would be, because they were already thinking that Voyager would be captained by a woman, because
Right.
Voyager was already being developed at that point. So
Right. Right.
it's like, well, let's just put Beverly in command for an episode,
See what
write
happens.
her in and see. No, I mean, just see if there was just like this, you could always tell, by the way, like back in the day, if you wanted to know how Star Trek was doing, there were conventions every weekend, pretty much
Yep.
all around the U.S. These little small 2-dayers, and so all
That's
you
what
had the
I
basic.
had in Buffalo. That's what we
Yeah.
had. They would
So
fly into the hotel right next to the airport, and there would be a convention there, and then they would probably just fly right out. But that was really our only conduit at
yeah.
that time. You're right. And Gates actually
So
came. She came back when I
I think
went
I was there. I think I was there
in
because I came.
1994. Were
Yeah, I
were
was
you
there.
back?
I was there because I was living in Cleveland, and we drove to
So you
my mom
remember?
and I drove to even my mom and I drove because she didn't. I was 16 and I could drive, or I was 17, I can't remember, but
I was
my mom
probably,
drove.
geez, I was maybe 13 or 14, but I did go.
We
So do
were.
you remember when she was up on stage and Generations, I think maybe was just about to come on. She said something like, I'm in it for like 2 minutes and that's it. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, and I remember saying,
Yeah.
I have a very funny scene, which is, I don't know if I think it's very funny, but
Oh, and she just
yeah.
slipped into the, yeah.
So
Yeah, I was there. We were at the same convention. That's wild. What are the odds of that?
Yeah. So hang in there. I know somewhere in this condo, I have photos from that con. I was up in the front when she was doing her stage time, and I took a lot
Yeah.
of photos. And I remember she did something where she was like posing with her. I remember I have photos of this, and that
Oh,
is nuts
definitely.
that we were
I'd
at
love to
that
see
same
it.
little con 30 years ago.
Yeah.
We
What are
didn't
the
know
odds?
each other.
That's amazing. Amazing. We were
That's
there.
yeah. I was going to tell you that was somewhere in my. Hopefully, in our conversation, when we get there, I had gone to see Gates in Buffalo, and when I was in high school,
Wow.
because
We were at and actually I won tickets to that convention. It was really easy. It was like through the local radio station, and the trivia question was, what is the title of the last episode of The Next Generation? And I'm like, really? And I dialed in and I got right through and all good things, and there it is. It was done. So I didn't have to pay to go.
yeah, there's a lot of Beverly, but I haven't really given Beverly a lot of love in a few episodes, so sorry. But if you're listening to this podcast or watching it, that's the namesake of this, and that's why my first love of Star Trek is Beverly Crusher. So we're going to do it every once in a while. Favorite captain?
Oh man. It's again difficult because I like them all for very different reasons, right? I mean, Picard is the diplomat, Cisco sort of the warrior, I guess, and emissary, kind of both. Janeway the scientist, and just so smart. Gosh, I would probably pick Janeway. If I had to pick one, I would pick Janeway. Just because she's just so. I feel like she channels me more than probably the rest. If that makes sense. I'd love to be like Picard, but I'm actually more Janeway, I think.
I would agree. I exactly. I can be pragmatic. I can be a little emotional. I want to be. I mean, I love Janeway. She's, in my perfect world. Also, like the one thing I didn't get out of Picard season 3, I think I think Crusher and Janeway on screen together would be freaking dangerous. You know what I mean?
Tell me you listen to her podcast, Investigates.
No, I have never heard of it.
So,
of course I do. Yes.
With her and Kate Mulgrew, I was just, I listened to it while I'm building the model starships. And can I tell you, I was just like, where has this been like my whole life? These two need to be on screen together. The chemistry, just their chat, everything, they were just amazing. And you could feel like the love for each other. It was just awesome. I loved it.
And we need to find a role for Mary McDonnell to come on also. Just, give us some President Roslin, give her a Trek role,
I mean, she's not my favorite character on Battlestar Galactica. I mean, why is that? Yeah, she's amazing. And I love that they're buds. That's so fun.
Yeah.
They're friends. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some cool pictures of them hanging out at some cons.
My sister, I think she said, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm on board. Let's do it.
That would be a fun exercise one day. I've never thought of it. Like, how would you build, if you could pull from the Berman era, like build your perfect Star Trek crew, like your bridge, build your cast, build a crew. Like if you were going to Janeway as your captain and Beverly as your doctor and
Or
so
maybe
on and so
first
forth.
officer. I don't know at that time. Yeah,
Yeah,
she was
yeah, yeah,
pretty young.
yeah. I mean, I there's something to that. Like, I like her as a doctor, but I also I like her in command too.
Absolutely.
That's why that admiral role kind of fit really well. I hit really well for me at the end. It's like, okay, she's an admiral, but she's head of Starfleet Medical still, and
Absolutely right.
and she's solving this Borg problem for the Federation and putting things back
Or
right.
the founder or the changeling issue. Yeah, I mean, she's
Yeah,
another day at work for her. She's like,
yeah.
I got this.
Running circles around Doctor. Was it Doctor O? What was the name? The actual
Yeah.
Doctor of the Titan.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. You know what though? I feel like she redeemed herself at the end
she
when
warmed up. She warmed up to her.
she kind of became the communications officer by default. I was like, all right, take that comms
Yeah,
station.
or when
You
she
got it.
saved when she saved what's his face?
Shaw.
Todd Stashwick. Shaw. When
Yeah.
Beverly saves Shaw and like,
What a
okay,
great character he was too, right? I mean,
yeah.
my God.
Oh, well, I think that's why Picard season 3 was so good. It's just like try to name something really bad about it. That's there's
It was
you're really nitpicking when you have to like bitch about Picard season 3.
Yeah, I'm with you. I loved it. I thought it was great. It
All
was
right.
so long overdue. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was on board.
Little fun light question. Your favorite Star Trek crush?
Oh my gosh, this is so okay. When I was super young, it was Beverly Crusher, of course.
Okay.
But then, of course, things sort of changed, and I was sort of like, who's that? Or who's that? No, I really responded very well to Sam Lavelle. Do you remember him from Lower Decks, TNG season 7? The
Yes.
youngish Riker.
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah,
loved
lower
it.
deck. He's a cutie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
he's
was like,
he's
oh,
in the original lower decks. But yeah,
exactly.
he
Yeah, I was like, who's that? He's
okay. I will take that. We've never had that answer before, but you're not wrong.
he's well,
You're
you
not
know,
wrong.
I've been asked this before, and I don't know. I for a long time I never really looked at the guys in Star Trek in that way, if that makes sense. I know that that probably sounds kind of strange, but maybe some others
Yeah.
will resonate with that. But like, I don't know. I to me it was like work. You know, it was very professional, and you didn't really have that kind of dynamic. Um, but then yeah, Sam Lavelle came along, and I was like, oh my. And then also, do you remember when Deanna, what was it called? The one where she kind of ages and gets really old, and the guy's like,
Yeah,
sorry,
man. I think it's Man of the People,
that's
maybe.
it. That's it,
No,
man.
yeah.
People.
When she's in her little nightgown with her, I mean, like in high definition, you see everything. Like you
Kevin,
didn't see everything back in 19-inch TV in the early 90s, but
sure, right. Yeah, yeah. But when she goes into the turbo lift and that cute ensign guy is there and she kind of like brings him back to her room, I'm
not
like,
kinda. She totally hooked up with him. I was kind of like, also like a little bit more risque for Star Trek pushing it. Like, oh, you basically she hooked up with that ensign, and
and Riker walks in on it, kind of, right? He's like in there, like, oh man, that
that
was.
guy's running out, putting his boots on or something like that. I'm like,
And then okay, so then the other one, of course, Lieutenant Hawk from First Contact.
oh,
I mean, my
yeah,
God.
who was supposed to be gay. I mean, we never got it in the movie in beta canon, but he was
Right.
so it wasn't established in the movie
Yeah. You know,
formally.
the thing I liked about that though, and even that whole era, which of course is so different now, but back then I feel like it was in our heads, you know, head canon that this was a thing, but they didn't really have it on screen, so it sort of left to your imagination. But I loved the fact that it didn't really matter. You know, they were just there doing their job and they were part of the crew and they fit right in. And so, you know, Lieutenant Hawk though, when he was on screen, I was like, oh, I like the new helmsman. Good. This is a step up with the
Ooh,
Enterprise D, huh?
yeah, little.
Oh my.
That's right, George. Thank you.
I know that's what I
He
would
knows.
do.
He knows what I'm talking about.
All right. So I don't know if you're gonna be able to answer this next question because you love your starship. So what
Yeah.
is your all-time favorite?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a really hard one for me to answer. I would probably say, geez. I mean, I love the Excelsior class. It's just so reliable, really long-term design that lasted forever. The Enterprise D, of course, I grew up with it, so huge fan with that. I have a really weird thing with the Steamrunner class. I think it's super cool.
It's cool.
Yeah, I would, between those, maybe three, I guess. Yeah, those are probably.
Right.
And then, of course, the motion picture redesign is just gorgeous. I mean, my gosh, how do you not fall in love with it, right? The beauty shots of going around it and Scotty kind of showing her off. I mean, that's just the stuff of dreams. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. Yes, I love that Lower Decks kind of called that out in a lovingly way, so it's pretty cool.
Yes, yeah, they did.
All right, all right. Favorite uniform?
I'm going to find Ed Speleers, and I'm taking his jacket. The leather jackets that they had in Picard season 3. Okay. Oh my gosh, I
love that too. But you can, so you know Volante, right? Have you heard of Volante?
I have. I've seen those. Do you have one?
I have the blue one. I have Beverly's.
I'm so jealous.
And by the way, everybody, it is vegan leather because Volante, I will give a plug for them. They are very, very, very responsible. And so this vegan's not running around eating leather. Being a hypocrite. All right. But anyways, but you would never know. It's literally legit. I wear it like casually.
Oh, I totally would. I mean, when I saw that initially, I thought, okay, are we doing like a biker gang look with our TNG cast? But then I was like, I really like this look. It looks just great, and they all wore it at some point. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, that looks really good. So I would say that I like the Picard season 3 uniforms a lot as well. They just have that kind of classic jacket look, but also with TNG style. I think that looks really, really good. So I would say, and then of course the classic TNG after, not the season 1 and 2, because those look really, really uncomfortable for the most part. Although most of my friends wear things like that regularly, I would say. But I think the season 3 to 7 TNG uniforms are just iconic. I mean, nobody on this planet sees that and doesn't know what it is, right?
Yeah. I have a Volante jacket. I have 3 Volante jackets that I bought through the years. And one is the blue season 3. Well, I don't know what you want to call it because
you're going to have to show me this after.
It zips up. Yeah, it zips up like more like a Monster Maroon would. Yeah. So it's kind of really fashionable that way. And I remember buying it at the con and wearing it instantly. And I folded the front down and put a com badge on it. And it was the Volante people were like, we never thought to even do that. But awesome. It was like, in fact, I need to, I'm going to be busting this all out I lost some weight. So I'm like, I'm back to my fighting weight, so to speak. So all my shit fits again. Go. So I'm like, all right,
summer is almost here. Perfect.
Well, D&I Con is in 2 weeks, so I need to bust. I'm gonna be rocking it.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I have a Nemesis jacket too. But I just recently discovered that there's actually on the inside, there's a place for your comm badge, like the magnet comm badges, like the one you're wearing right now.
Yeah.
There's a way to put those in the jacket so that they don't, they hold really well and. The back of it's inside, so it's the magnet's stronger.
I guess I didn't even know about that, but you're gonna have to show me these after.
All right.
Because that sounds incredible. Yeah, 100%. Look at that. You're making. Are they paying you for this?
I know. I should take this whole thing. Here's your Volante corner, sponsored by.
There you go. That's great.
In fact, that might be a fun little outtake to post as a promo on Insta.
It works. It works.
Yeah. Last question. What does Star Trek mean to you?
Oh my gosh, that's
I know the heavy one.
The heavy one, right? I think at the age that I was watching it, and especially talking as someone within the LGBTQ plus community, it was a safe place. It was a place that you could go where it didn't matter that you were this way at all. You could be a part of the crew as long as you knew your job and you did it well. You belonged. And that really spoke to me at that age. And, I think it continues to. And the fact that it continues to push the envelope for young folks today that are maybe in a similar situation, I think that's so important. If at the end of the day, it's a TV show, right? And if it's able to make these connections with people and give them that space to be themselves, that's something really special. And so I champion that, and I think it's great. So yeah, that's probably I'm sure you've heard that before. It's probably an incantation.
No, you said it really well. I mean, for and then to sum that up, infinite diversity and infinite
That's it.
combinations. I mean,
And that's from
that's
the beginning.
literally,
That's from the
yeah,
very beginning. That's
yeah.
what Gene Roddenberry wanted it to be. And it's really cool to see it. So my husband, so really quick story, for folks that are interested in trying to get your significant other into Star Trek. So his entry point was actually Deep Space Nine. And the reason for that was I realized it's serialized. And this is before, of course, the newest versions of the show, which are, in many ways, very serialized. But anyway, so he got into DS9. Long story short, he's watching the original series now for the first time. It's the last of the series, by the way, that he's not seen. So he's seen all the other ones. This is where he's at.
How's he doing?
So I keep telling him, pay attention to these first few episodes because you're going to see some changes pretty quickly in representation, who you're seeing, and you're going to see the handiwork of Gene Roddenberry, Gene Kuhn, these guys Bob Justman, that literally were looking around the bridge and saying, nope, sorry, you have to go. You're a great character, but you kind of got to go because we're going to put someone else in here. And it's not going to be, a white dude. Sorry to say it, but it's just not. And so then you start to see the diversity, and it's just from the beginning. So again, just a little quick story about bringing on my husband on this ride.
Nice. Well, that's good that you've got him into it. So I think that's important. I don't know, I'm single at the moment, but it's like, I don't know how at this point in life, if someone's going to be my significant other, how I could not have somebody that didn't like Star Trek. So, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's such a big deal for me.
It would be one of my first questions, I think. Do you like Star Trek or not? Do you even know what it is?
I think I have the emoji for,
absolutely.
I think I have that in my my Grinder and Scruff profiles and stuff. So
I would be like, what does this mean to you?
And I use my handle Greek Geek, so it's like I'm like sending every flag out that I'm a nerd. So
amazing. That's as you should.
Yeah. All right. So moving into, I guess, our one and only big topic of the day. So Thursday, 2 days ago, not even, we got the premiere 2 episodes of season 5 of Star Trek Discovery. We've been kind of building up to this for quite some time. Discovery's been gone for almost 2 full years.
I could not believe that when I read that. I was like, it has been gone that long. You're right. It took me a second to realize it, but you're right. 2 years. Jeez, it's a long time.
Yeah. So we got episode 1 and 2. And so listeners, viewers, we're going to talk about these kind of as a whole, and just kind of give some thoughts about it and some discussion. So give me your overall impression of the first 2 episodes.
Fun, exciting, adventure. It's all of the things, sort of the buzzwords that they keep saying, but it actually delivers on it. I don't know, we probably can't go into spoilers, but the shouts to
go ahead.
Okay. So
spoilers are good. I got screenshots up. Spoilers are fine.
I mean, the shouts back to the chase in TNG. You've got a Soon type android. It was just really cool how they sort of brought this into the 32nd century. I think they're in now, very seamlessly, but also in such cool and meaningful ways. So yeah, I thought it was great that the scene with the 2 ships sort of crashing to protect the little colony or whatever. I mean, that's like classic Star Trek, but brought new. And I don't know that we've ever seen that done before. And I loved it. I thought it was just really fun, really fresh, really new. And actually, when I was watching it, I don't know if anyone else had this reaction, but I thought, it's almost bittersweet that this is the last season of this because this is really good. Yeah. And, I'm kind of sad that it's the end, but also like, hey, if this is how you're going to go out, what better way? I mean, that's really, awesome.
I kind of predicted that it was going to be like, it's going to be a little bit like ironic that they got their shit together finally and probably started making the show more appealable to everybody. And then it's already been canceled. But at the same time, I like the Discovery. It's been kind of different. I love that all the 2017 and beyond shows have been kind of their own flavor, and Discovery's had its own flavor. But yeah,
Absolutely.
but you're right. It's that they hit that right mix of nostalgia with, like you said, the soon type android, the callback to the chase. Like, let's just stop and talk about that for a hot second. So
Yeah,
most listeners know that the chase is my favorite episode of TNG,
it's
and
fantastic.
it's fantastic because I call it like a scavenger hunt. It's a fast
That's right.
paced, it's a little Indiana Jones, which is this whole season of Discovery.
That's what
And, but my criticism of the chase has always been that we have this huge revelation at the end of the chase, which Beverly was there for and had a
Yes,
big
you
part
are.
of
You
figuring
totally
out.
scraped the rock and
She
made it
scraped the
happen.
rock. I know. I'm like, why wasn't she in that like callback image for Burnham was looking at? We just see Picard's head. Should have been that
Right.
picture of both of them. Anyways, I digress.
Yeah.
But we never followed up on anything that happened in the chase. Like that was such a big, it literally laid the foundation for some peace between the Romulans and the Klingons and the Cardassians and the Klingons, Romulans, Cardassians. I don't know. It laid some foundation there for peace to maybe move forward at having this
Yeah.
revelation that we are all the same. We're made of the same stuff. Never went anywhere.
Well, and
So
especially at the end of the episode where I love that scene. It's so subtle, but it is so, to your point, the Romulan commander contacts Picard and they have
yeah,
that moment where it's like, oh wait, maybe the Romulans aren't so
yeah.
bad
Suppose we
after
aren't
all,
all
right?
that different. Suppose we
Right.
aren't all that
And you're
different.
right.
Yeah.
It kind of then never really went anywhere after that. Or if it did, it wasn't a callback to this specific episode. But now kind of seeing this, and I love that they have that guy kind of in the back corner. That's
Yeah,
now
I
like
know.
he was just happened to be there, and now he turns into this really important character. But I think that's part of what was really cool about what they did. It's sort of like they took something that, was kind of, I don't want to say throwaway, but, a background character and really turned it into something now that is part of this really cool story that we're about to embark on this adventure for. It's really fun.
Yeah. And this Discovery once again has retconned this idea that comm badges are always recording everything and somehow, and, like, I don't know whose comm badge was recording Picard and Spock in Unification Part 2 that Burnham watches in season 3. But,
Okay.
we also have these images from the chase that, and it's like, you've never been able to, the one thing that would never make sense was like if there's an away team down there and Picard's on the bridge, he could just be watching what's going on through, whoever's comm badge, and
Right.
that never. So,
Do you remember when they tried it with poor Geordie's visor and they couldn't
yeah,
see what was going on? They were like, what is that? Yeah. You're
yeah,
right. The combat just
it's
recorded
okay.
all.
But they did figure it out in Generations, the Klingons and
Oh, yeah,
Soren. Like, yeah. Anyways, we are off on a tangent, but yes, I'll get past it. But I just love that we're following up on the chase, and if
yeah.
that's going to be the premise for the season, the final season of Discovery, first off, what a love letter back to TNG, and
Yeah.
secondly, what kudos to the writers for addressing this, like,
And
right,
and
like,
and with the second episode as well, we're talking about that one as well. I assume,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So the writing for me, and I don't know if this was intentional or if maybe they kind of wink and hope that someone would get it. But as a TNG fan, the minute that they mentioned the Promillions, that this planet, and I'm thinking it's booby trapped. I know it will be. Like
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm like, I know something's going to happen. And I said it to my husband who's watching it, and he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, just watch. I guarantee you something's going to
Yeah.
happen here. And it happened. I was like,
Didn't you get like major Arsenal of Freedom vibes?
oh, yeah.
Especially with those
totally.
things flying around. Like, yeah,
Yes.
it was that's pretty
This one
intense.
wasn't like a stocking container though, but yeah, it was definitely, I totally got that vibe.
Yeah,
100%.
I
Luckily,
got
no
that
one
too.
fell into a hole.
Yeah, I gotta, I'm gonna sound, I don't want to sound ignorant saying this, but the planet with Fred and there was other androids down there. Isn't that, I was catching that kind of halfway listening to a podcast yesterday that was kind of breaking it down. Is it Copernicus? Is that the planet that was in the end of season 1 Picard with all the androids and the synths? Is it the same
Oh,
planet we're
I
on?
don't That's a great question. I don't think so, but maybe that's a great.
I don't know. I think I need to go back and I should have researched that before I got on a podcast and even mentioned it. But I think there's because there's other soon like androids walking around on that
I
planet.
thought that it was beautifully done. I mean,
Yeah.
The production value on the first episode and the second episode, I thought this is really awesome. Like cripe, like really good stuff.
Yeah, that Burnham, that planet with Burnham and Saru, it just was next level on the special effects and the use of the starships to stop the rock slide. That was just totally believable. I was all in it.
Yeah.
The only dumb scene I saw in that scene was when when they were done and they're sitting on their little motorcycles and it's Burnham and Book and Rayner. That
great character, by the way. I really like his addition to the cast. I mean,
yes, he's good, but that looked very AR wall to me. I looked a little bit too like it almost like it was a green screen. But that was the one scene in all 2 episodes that I was like,
that you thought,
okay, that's not. I kind of pulled out of it for a hot second.
I think part of it, like they had a lot of discussion in those scenes where I was like, you're doing this here? Like I would,
like, at that point there's 2 different ships, right? So it's like, for them to be face to face, that was the
shout out to the new Antares, by the way. That's a new design. I don't think we've seen it yet. And
beautiful ship.
Sell 32nd century ship. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah,
I'll build one of those too.
I love the introduction of this infinity room with Kovacs and whatnot. Like, and first off, shout out to him for having a little bit more to do in episode 1 than he normally does. And Red Directive, we've got we've got Omega Directive, which is one of my favorites. In fact, Omega is one of my favorite episodes of Voyager. It's very my favorite episode of Voyager. But Omega Directive, now we got Red Directive, and that's just like, oh shit,
I was reading one of the reviews and they aptly pointed out, and it didn't even occur to me, that they never actually really explain what a Red Directive is. It's just meant to sound really important.
Right.
Which, I kind of get it, but it is interesting that they don't really actually give it any definition. And I'm wondering if they will, is it just something that's going to just be, we all know what the Prime Directive is, right? That's a very clearly established thing. Red Directive, though, I mean,
one thing I kind of took it as is maybe Red Directive can override a Prime Directive. Like you got for example, they were on that planet where they do the rock slide, and there were that's not a Federation planet and whatnot, and they're doing shit and interfering, and we get a little bit of the fallout of that later. But I think maybe Red Directive means you can Prime Directive is suspended, like the way Omega does too. As Janeway says,
suspended, and you just do what you need to do to get it done.
The Prime Directive has been rescinded for the duration of this mission. And I love when Kate Mulgrew delivers that line.
Oh, any line that she delivers is just fire for me. But yeah, she's awesome. Yep, Red Directive. But hopefully we'll learn more about it, I guess, or see. Yeah. But I also too, what is it? You said it at the beginning. Mole and Locke, I think are their names.
Yeah.
Really cool characters. Really cool characters. Yeah. And actually, I don't know if you knew this, but Locke, the actor, he is he's one of the voice actors in Resurgence, the video game.
I did not know that. Yeah. You know what? Okay, I take that back. Maybe I did hear that. It's like it was but that's pretty cool. So, what do you think of this little at the end of the day, somehow Book knows Maul from when she was a 7-year-old girl or something like that? Is that just a little bit like, hey, once again, in this very, 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 very huge universe, and millions and billions and trillions of people on all these planets, not to mention how hard space travel was back before because of the burn.
Right.
Yes. Book just happens to know Maul.
Yeah. Well,
they're couriers. I guess they're couriers, but
let's see what happens. I think what part of it is, though, I like how they kind of introduce them as he sees himself in them, the way that those two are, because of what he and Burnham once had. So I kind of get that, but we'll see about the sort of relationship between him and them. I guess it's going to be interesting to see how they play that off. I really did like, though, one shout, the relationship, and I think they kind of mentioned that this was coming, but between Culber and Book. It was kind of like, hey, you know, it was like this like bromance kind of thing going on. I don't think Book kind of knows it's happening quite yet, but Culber is all about it.
Well,
and I like that.
It's a continuation of season 4 when Culber was kind of acting as his counselor to help him get over Kazon being destroyed. Can I say that right? Kazon. Right. So I like that that's continuing. I like that, you know, Stamets is thinking a little bit more about his legacy, and I love it because I love that. I think it's like 6 to 8 months have passed between seasons 4 and 5, and so we've evolved a little bit, you know. So Stamets, the spore drive, we find out that during that period, the spore drive has been shelved, and kind of you know, and so Paul's got to go find something else to do with his research and time, but he gets that a little bit with Fred coming now, and now he's kind of re-inspired already, and we get that. Tilly being at Starfleet Academy, and let's talk just for a hot second about Tilly's cute little boyfriend crush. Isn't he? I was like, he's a little cutie.
I'm with you. I was like, Tilly, what are you doing? Why are you
if you're gonna send him home, send him my way.
Do you know what's happening? Because I will tell you what's happening. Like, yeah, he seemed he was very, very easy to watch.
Might be a new crush. We'll see. I hope we see more of him and not just like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, hopefully we don't like just get him at the final scenes of episode 10 where life goes back to normal and now she's free to pick that back up.
Really good for doing this. I mean, do you remember what they did with poor Ensign Connor? I mean, he was in like the pilot only. I was so crushed. I was like,
I have met him. He's a very cute Greek. So Sam Bartholomew. He's got a very long Greek last name, but he's
I remember being very excited when he was sort of introduced as a cast member, and then being really, really disappointed when they killed him off, and then disappointed again when they killed him a second time in the Mirror Universe. I'm like, really? Okay, we get it. You don't want this guy in the show. It's sad.
So 2 more things to talk about with this first episode. First off, I got to stop and like when Tarina proposed to Saru, I cried. I'm very emo. I get it. I know it. I cry every time I watch Star Trek, usually at some point. If it's good Star Trek, I cry. So they did it. Episode 1, not in episode 2, but episode 1, and I watched them back to back. So, but what did you think? Are you a shipper of Tarina and Saru?
I'm really delighted for it. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Saru, it's what an arc, you know. And I know that it's, you know, it's serialized and they've had 5 seasons, but they're shorter. You know, there's like 10 episodes or 13 episodes a season, something like that. But his arc has been really, really cool to watch. And Doug Jones just does such a great job. And the thing that struck me that I kind of was watching, she's so short compared to him. Well, I feel like she's been looking up the entire time. But I just thought it was absolutely beautiful and awesome and good for them. That's fantastic. Yeah, I love it.
Everybody's short next to Doug Jones. I've met him several times.
Well, and with those boots, I'm sure. You know,
with the boots, But yeah, I am just delighted. I have been a huge fan of Tarina since we saw her in season 3. Unification 3, I think, was her debut.
She had sort of a playful moment as well, you know, and I thought...
don't make me mind meld you.
Yeah, I'm like, the Vulcans in the 32nd century are pretty cool.
Well, like the Romulans have rubbed off a little bit, you know? And you know, they are coupled, so they're going to be a little more casual with each other. Even for Vulcan, she'll be a little more casual. But I am just delighted. I hope we still see more of Tarina as the season goes and not just pick that up at the end as well. And I want to say, like, I forget the actress's name now, but I definitely am looking forward to meeting her at some point and getting that picture with her. I just have been, Saru aside, I've just been a big fan of Tarina. You know, I love strong Vulcan women.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. When they introduced her, I remember thinking, okay, this is a very sort of familiar face already. Like, we kind of know, but then when she would kind of throw a little bit of the curveballs, I was like, okay, this is
well,
Yeah, I'm
her
with you.
performance is up there with Leonard Nimoy's, especially as Vulcan. You know what I mean? I think she delivers she gets what it is to be Vulcan or to portray a
Yes.
Vulcan. So
I'm with you. It's not necessarily the easiest role to kind of nail, but when they do it and well, I mean, and we can go on about Strange New Worlds with Ethan Peck. I think he's doing great, but I'm with you. Yeah, she does great stuff, and I'm thrilled. And you're right. I hope we see more of it. I hope it's not just now they're maybe we'll even get to see a wedding.
Yeah, I mean, Tarina was a really good recurring character all throughout season 4. So I hope we get that in season 5. I don't think she was in episode 2 really until the very end, maybe. But yeah, I hope she is in most of the episodes and has stuff to do because they brought her into the 10C and she was part of that. You know what I mean? So I just want to hopefully see more of that. And okay, my last thing, and this kind of gets into the speculation aspect, but I don't know if you caught at the end of episode 1, there was like a trailer for the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. Did you catch that? Did you watch it?
I saw like 2 seconds of it, and then I'm like, I don't know if I want to see this, and I did skip it. So I didn't watch.
You want me to shut up?
No. All right. No,
we see images of Constitution class ship.
Really?
Which beat one? Up and we don't know, but it's their speculation that
or original.
It looks like the Strange New Worlds.
Okay, that one. Okay, I was just
but
we really have to qualify Constitution class these days.
Yeah, well, there's speculation, and this is the speculation part. There's speculation that it's Mirror Universe Defiant. You know how the Defiant shows up at the end of Enterprise and
back up, right?
Yeah, so I don't know. And then there are some scenes that look like they're in looks like they're using the Strange New World sickbay. So we're led to believe that they end up on the ship, at some point. So they're using Strange New World sets, which is, hey, let's use them. But I don't know. But I will say, whatever Defiant we see, it is the Strange New Worlds version of, because I saw you could see the struts of the nacelles.
That's interesting because when they showed it in Discovery in the Mirror Universe, it was clear that it had been modified from its original appearance, right? Like, and it was just a schematic, I think, that they showed, Giorgio. But you could tell even in the schematic that there were modifications done to the ship. It had I think there were I'm going to guess weapons or something added to the pylons. There were modifications to the saucer. So, it's not inconceivable that if it shows up again, it is going to look a bit different because it already kind of did in the diagrams that we saw. We'll see.
We'll see. Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Gosh, I would just say it's just so exciting to be a Star Trek fan now. I mean, just think about where it's come in the past few years. And I'm glad we had the chance to talk about Discovery because they're right when they say that it really was what sort of brought it back, especially to TV, even though it's streaming. But it's a legacy that it should really be proud of, that now it's a part of this huge universe that it's helped to foster and bring forward. So I think that's really cool. So yeah, I guess that's probably my final thought. And then all the ships that they keep showing, I just hope to build every single one of them someday.
After you build my Helios.
Yes, absolutely. That one will be, it's going to be a really fast build. It's a cute little ship.
It's a baby. It's a cute one.
Yeah.
But we gotta make it big.
We can do that. Scale it up.
All right.
You got this.
All right. I'm just giving you. Thank you so much. It's been a delight to get to know you.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. I mean, are you kidding me? Spending an afternoon talking about Star Trek.
I feel like you're we chatted a little bit a couple days ago to just get to know each other a little bit, and then a little bit before we started recording. I'm I truly believe you'd be one of those people that would just if we lived in the same city, it'd be dangerous because we would just pick right up and be finishing each other's Star Trek.
They're still talking about Star Trek over there. And,
shut those two queens down.
Hopefully they're eating us martinis or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we'd be sitting around with our espresso martinis, just going off on Trek. So
speaking of, I'll probably get one right after this.
I had one.
If we do this again, instead of tea, because it is.
Yeah. Well, I like that idea of having you back because I am weary that the format of asking the same questions every week might start to get old. So I have this idea that I wanted to start bringing back more Beth Doves and bringing back to do some other topics, a little bit more deep dive.
This was a really great week to do it. And I think we were supposed to do this on Wednesday. And just this is what I'm saying. What a fun time to be a fan, because think of all that has changed since Wednesday until now. We did First Contact Day. We did 2 new episodes of Discovery. I mean, and it just keeps coming. So I'm glad that we did it today. This actually worked out great.
It did. All right. We would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, and continue our discussion there or in Discord. You can also find me on Instagram at What's the T-Bev, or leave a comment on YouTube if you're watching this episode. Please hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a star rating and a written review. That helps others to find the show. And yes, on YouTube especially, folks, a like of the episode, a subscribe, it goes a long way. I was very happily surprised that somehow last episode with Natalie just kind of caught the YouTube algorithm, and I had so many new viewers to the show, and I hope that we are going to continue to have those people in, and that happens when you like and subscribe. So Jeff, where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram. You can find me as Renegade Shipyards. Check it out. And if you love the starships, that's pretty much what it's about. And then also too, I didn't even mention this, but action figures are there as well. I was sort of like, let's sort of pivot into that a little bit. So some custom action figures are there as well. So check those out. So Renegade Shipyards on Instagram. Check it.
I did see some of those custom action figures. So there's stuff to talk about next time for us.
Perfect. Thank you.
At this time, we would like to thank our associate producers, Davey Willett, Jason Anderson, and Matt Harker. Thanks, guys. If you'd like to keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. With a monthly subscription of $5 or more, you can join our meetings of the Hive Mind Roundtable discussion on the second Saturday of each month. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages. And on top of that, listeners, there is a private page or private Slack, whatever we're calling it, on Discord for Patreon members. And Patreon members right now are actually getting invites to join Let's Fly, our weekly Discovery recap show, which is happening on Friday. It's happening on Friday afternoons for me, listeners, which it's like 3 p.m. Friday, and I'm still kind of working, so I haven't been able to join yet. But as Patreon members, you would have that opportunity. Thank you for listening, and we'll hope you'll join us next time for more tea on What's the T-Bev. Live long and prosper.
What else can you listen to on the BQN? Replicate yourself a mug of hot chocolate and join Amy, Mark, Christos, and Kelvin as they discuss everything and anything in the Star Trek universe on All Good Things. Boost yourself with an energy drink and join Davey on YouTube and Twitch for reviews and live streams of classic, cheap, and sometimes more recent video games on Bargain Bin Gamer. Brew yourself a pot of coffee and join Jeremiah to discuss Star Trek Voyager on The Captain's Couch. Mix your favorite cocktail and join Mark and Matt at Cinema Z to discuss the films you probably missed but should definitely check out. Pour a cup of tea, Earl Grey, hot, and listen to Stephen and Keith as they discuss the next generation of Trek on Galaxy Class. Get yourself something caffeinated and learn an interesting bit of history with Chrissy and Jason on History with the Zalogis. Have a bowl of Flomeek soup and join Thad and Chrissy and a guest to discuss new episodes of Star Trek as they are released on Infinite Diversity. Have something to sharpen your mind and put your Trek knowledge to the test with the Treksperts quiz. Take a bite out of something that didn't seem edible and join Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley covering all things in New Trek, including that show that is Trek in all but name, The Orville, on Union Federation. Get your Sunday brunch ready for The View Screen, a live weekly talk show hosted by Kelvin and Amy with featured guests talking about all things Trek. Pour a glass of wine and spill some tea with Christos, where he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with an LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the Tea, Bev? And Patreon members get to pass around that green bottle of Aldebaran whiskey once a month on the round table, and they can listen to It's Green with Mark White and Amy's Math Moments.